Today I wanted to share with you 6 sentimental memory fragrances. I always find it surprising at how stirring a scent can be. I have found myself in tears after opening a fresh tomato leaf candle, so much so that I had to put it away and pull it back out another day. To be honest, it still hasn't made it back out, and it's been about 10 years. But today, the fragrances I will share with you remind me of good times, childhood, my parents, and just simply being at home. This list has been fun for me to create, and I wanted to share some of these sentimental memories with you. Because they are tied to my memories and not to yours, they may not be safe blind buys. But I would encourage you to find the fragrances that stimulate your memories, because those are precious that we can never get back. And we can kind of always relive them, though, when we smell that fragrance, whether it's a candle or perfume. And today we're going to talk about perfume. The first one on my list is by Jo Malone, and it is from the Intense collection. This is Cypress and Grapevine. They also recently came out with a Hinoki wood and Cedarwood. Hinoki and Cedarwood is the name of that fragrance. And they do lean masculine to me, which I've shared with you before. My husband and son love these fragrances. I happen to also find them very enjoyable to wear. Just simply spray in the air, and they definitely stir my memories. They simply make me happy. These are different enough for me to own both. That is not necessary, but it reminds me of walking in a forest and breathing in the smell of a cool fall day or even a cold winter day. I did that house review where I went into more details. The Cypress and Grapevine projects very fresh sophistication. It is that cypress scent with the woody quality of grapevine. Hinoki wood is traditionally used in Japanese bathhouses, where it releases its scent when the hot water hits it. The Hinoki wood is considered so precious that at one point they were even protected by the samurais, and they are still protected to this day. It's derived from cypress trees, which can have even citrus and balsamic notes. Both of these are so fresh and clean smelling, and it reminds me of Christmas. The Hinoki especially reminds me of Christmas because of the pine fragrance, and Cypress and Grapevine has that wonderful freshness from cypress, which reminds me of Christmas and walking in woods too. And they very much remind me of my father and being home for the holidays. The next fragrance is by Atelier Materi, and it's called Cacao Porcelana. I hope you can see that. This is Cacao, and I did not expect to love it as much as I did. The first spray of Cacao Porcelana, I enjoyed it so much, but it wasn't a love until the dry down. This has a very nice spray, and it's an absolutely beautiful fragrance for me. And the true powdery quality of it comes out in the dry down. I first saw this fragrance by Monica Kalosh, who has such a gentle way of speaking, very calming presence, and I found her descriptions on many fragrances to be so accurate for my skin as well. I don't always find my body chemistry will emit the same notes and create the same impressions in others, but I do love to watch her reviews, and she described Cacao Porcelana perfectly. And what this reminds me of, my mother would make hot chocolate without the milk, but with hot water. So it was so chocolatey, but more like cacao and less traditional than the hot chocolate, and it was not very sweet. It was kind of bitter. But this took me back to childhood upon first spray and stirred my memory of my mother stirring on the stove her blend of cocoa, water, and sugar. Slightly bitter. This is not really bitter, but it was just that scent that I find so inviting and welcoming, and I find myself making that cocoa often and thinking of her. The next scent is by 8 and Bob, and this scent was introduced to me by a perfumery in Nashville called Le Jeté Perfumery, I believe that's how you say it, at Green Hills Mall in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a fall, winter, spring scent, unisex. It's a tobacco scent and it's definitely not a safe blind buy, but this gives me such good memories of my father. Top notes are grapevine, petitgrain, and clove, so you do get some citrus spiciness. Middle notes are tonka bean, orris, and coffee, which I love the smell of. Once again, memories from childhood. And base notes of vetiver, tobacco, and musk. This one is complex with earthy, woodsy, spicy, and the tobacco, which is soft and lightly sweet in this fragrance. It gives me about a 4 to 5 hour longevity and more moderate sillage. The memory of this is my father, wintry days, wood burning. It's cozy and an absolutely comforting scent to me. If you can get your nose on it, I would try to. You can find this at Joma Shop, and you can also find it on So Avant-Garde during their 30% off sales, which they have periodically through the year. And the next fragrance is, I am not real sure how to say this. I hate to butcher the word, but I'm afraid I'm going to. It's by Nobile 1942, and this one is La Danza. And it's called La Danza de Libellule, I guess. I hope that's right, but this is the bottle. I have no idea where the top went. It is somewhere in my Christmas madness. But this is not the actual scent that my mother wore in the 1950s and when I was growing up in the 60s. Her go-to was always Chanel No. 5 at that time. La Danza is a floral beauty with top notes that are fresh, like red apple and bergamot. The middle has cinnamon and cocoa, and I can assure you my mother never would have deliberately chosen a cinnamon scent because she did not like that. But this one also has a base of vanilla, musk, and cedar. It reminds me of my mother because I find this to be considerably classy and non-offensive to me, and I don't think it would be offensive to anyone else. That's another reason this reminds me of my mother. She was always careful never to offend anyone, but peace is something that she always sought to have. It was not always possible for a Japanese woman in the 1950s and 1960s. My dad was her rock and her strength and was always stable and unwavering in his support of his family. In any storm, he was there, like a strong tree in a forest. Maybe that's why those woodsy scents mean so much to me. He was also someone who hunted and fished, and I would go along with him on the fishing part of it. But this Nobile 1942 is more like my mother because it is such a classic. This is the extrait version, which is probably a little bit more bold, maybe like me. But I don't seek to offend, but I seek to be who I am and would love others to like my scent, but if they don't, then that's okay. I don't have a problem with their opinion. The next fragrance is Boucheron Rose d'Esparta. This one is a wonderful scent that was introduced by Boucheron in 2020. It's an oriental vanilla, and it reminds me of a rose bush that was in front of my house. It was really a very large rose bush. I don't know what kind it was. And it seemed like, at that time, hundreds of small, delicate pink roses. And I would say this is a complex blend of notes. My journey with this fragrance began with a unique, at least to my nose, mix of incense, ambrette, which is muskmallow, and ginger. The heart of the fragrance arrives to greet us with Turkish rose, which is a scent known to have romantic appeal. Maybe that's why we give roses at different times of the year to our loved ones. The rose is enhanced with saffron and cinnamon. Also hawthorn, which can look very gnarly in the winter, but the scent is very sweet and spicy. It also has almond-scented blooms that arrive in the spring. It has the freshness of freesia that also appears in this fragrance. This is gracefully blended with vanilla, amber, and sandalwood. And this is a beautiful fragrance. There is also tonka bean in here, and they do a wonderful job with their tonka bean and musk, elements that are all combined to provide a scent that I find warm, inviting, and luxuriously comforting. The next scent I do not have a bottle of, but I would love to. I have 2 samples though. It's Guerlain's Tobacco Honey. Guerlain's website states that it's touched by honey, tobacco turns gold, and that's exactly what it smells like. Once again, reminding me of my father. He liked tobacco, and we could smell tobacco as children drying in barns, and he would sometimes get honey from someone who raised their own bees and had hives, of course. Guerlain has long time had a conservation program for the bees, which I think is wonderful. And I think this is one of the best, most realistic smells of honey that I have had the pleasure to inhale. I do not have this in my collection, as I mentioned, but I would love to. I ordered other fragrances from them. You can also order mascara or makeup items, skincare items from them, and they will let you choose samples. Tobacco honey is not one that's always available, but it's how I was able to sample this fragrance with 2 ml samples, and I definitely want to add it in my collection. Well, thank you for joining me, my fragrance friends, and I hope you enjoyed my little journey down memory lane. I certainly enjoyed sharing it with you. If you have any scent-mental memories, please let me know what they are. Share in the comments, like and subscribe, and I will look forward to seeing you in my next video, my fragrance friends. Thank you and goodbye.